I wonder sometimes if coincidences are not just like the winning or the losing numbers on a roulette wheel. In my case, I have reason to think otherwise. Take my trip back from Biosphere Monte Azul and Las Guacamayas Forest Lodge. The humid forest is a vast area of impenetrable thickets and high canopy shade trees covered in creepers and lianas. The jaguar often swims across the fast-flowing river at night and walks around the sparse colonia, looking for an unguarded calf or a goat. At 5 in the morning, the guacamayas, flaming red macaws, get airborne with a raucous noise that makes further sleep impossible. On the way back to San Cristobal de las Casas, I decided to stop at Hacienda Santa Maria for lunch. My driver, Marcos, drove the 4x4 vehicle into the overgrown parking area of the Parador. A brand new military jeep, painted in shining jungle green, was parked in the shade of a large tree. 4 smartly uniformed soldiers idled around the vehicle, and one of them had a small brown dog on a long leash. I looked at Marcos and said, jokingly, "An army general is dining here this afternoon." The Parador staff received me hospitably and seated me at a table on the terrace. The place was almost empty, even though it was well past 1 o'clock. Still early for a Mexican almuerzo. I was not wrong in my prediction. An officer in crisp bottle green uniform with crossed-over Sam Brown belt and spats on the boots was sitting at the further end of the terrace next to the manicured lawns with a 35-plus woman. From her good looks and her deportment towards him, I guessed that she was a close friend rather than a wife. The general was in my full view. I was mostly out of his sight. After a while, he grew uneasy and turned round to see who else was dining in the restaurant. The moment our eyes met, he withdrew his glance. The general and the lady left when I was halfway through the meal. Marcos had gone off to dine with the kitchen staff, and when I was ready to leave, he came up to meet me in the restaurant, and lowering his voice, he said, "Senor was right. The officer who was here is General Calzada." The name rang a fearsome bell. Santos Javier de la Calzada was a rider of the Pale Horse. I continued my unplanned, unstructured travel through Central and South America.
Why this particular trailer from the film director? It is because October this month, 2023, is a very special month. On 7th of October 2023, Hamas, the Palestinian Revolutionary Organization in charge of the government in Gaza, attacked Israeli settlements out of the blue and killed more than 1,400 people. The Hamas warriors took hostage 240 Israeli citizens in the early hours of the morning. A few hours later, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Israel was at war. So Israeli Air Force and the military retaliated, and during this campaign it is reported that up to now more than 4,000 civilians, adults and children have been killed. This is 15th of November 2023, a news update in the film series Vintage Street Filming during Covid-19 and War. We have reached episode 17, Vintage Cooke cinema lenses filming in the Mediterranean. Very grim news is coming out of a major theater of conflict. Right now, the news is coming from Gaza that intense fighting has developed in the areas around a very large, most important hospital in northern Gaza. Reports are coming in that people have seen bulldozers digging mass graves to bury the bodies of hundreds of patients who have died inside the hospital during the fighting of last 2 or 3 days. Israeli military claims that Hamas, the Islamic fundamentalist movement that controls Gaza, has constructed tunnels under the hospital which they are using to fight the Israeli ground forces. Some Israeli military personnel have entered inside the hospitals. Pictures are also seen of the bodies of newborn babies, infants who have been taken off the incubators and have died. Their bodies are lined up in the corridors. These tragic events began on the 7th of October 2023 with a surprising attack by Hamas fighters inside the Israeli frontier. In the early hours of the morning, Hamas fighters attacked various social events in Israel that were going on during the night, and they killed 1,400 Israeli people. They also took 240 Israeli citizens hostage and then transferred them to hiding places in Gaza. A few hours after the attack, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Israel was at war. Israeli intelligence chief, the military and the government acknowledged they had no prior information that an attack was about to take place. Subsequently, the Israeli government and the military ordered the inhabitants of northern Gaza, some 1 million people, to evacuate the area and go to the south. Israel cut off Gaza from the rest of the world. There was the opening supply of water and food and fuel and no essential medical supplies. Then the Israeli Air Force began a relentless area of bombardment of Gaza, demolishing houses, buildings, hospitals, schools, and the essential infrastructure of an urban area. A few days later, Israeli ground forces attacked with infantry, tanks, and artillery. Today, the war has now reached its fourth week, and how this conflict would end, we do not know. What is clear, however, is that the Arab world, the Muslim world, Israel, and their Western supporters, the United States and the Union of Europe, are now divided into two opposing camps. The tectonic rupture is taking place once again in the fabric of world geopolitics, just like the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Schiava, ora fischia più forte, le idee di rivolta non sono mai morte, se c'è chi lo afferma, lo stiamo a sentire, è uno che vuole soltanto tradire, se c'è chi lo afferma, sputiamogli addosso la bandiera rossa angettata in corso. Quanto sei bella Roma, quando è sera, quando la luna si specchia dentro al fontanone e le coppiette se ne vanno via. Quanto sei bella Roma.
Novembre 1975. Maria Teresa Lollobrigida parle aux journalistes. C'est moi qui ai découvert le mort, raconte-t-elle aux journaux. Quand nous sommes arrivés, j'ai aperçu quelque chose devant notre maison. J'ai dit à mon fils, Giancarlo, regarde-moi ça, ces fils de pute viennent déposer leur saleté devant chez nous. Je me suis avancé pour voir comment
A long time ago, a 21-year-old wanderer on the road got off the long-distance train at Milano Centrale. The train had come from Napoli. It was getting towards the midday, ora di pasto. As the young warrior walked along the binario, he heard the melodious voice of the food vendors selling pre-packed lunch baskets. And then the ice cream seller chanting,
gelato motta. He did not have much money, and the meager savings had to be conserved. Yet, throwing prudence to the wind, he bought a cestino and a tub of gelato motta. And what motta was it? In the year 2023, the ex-member of the Parthian Legion returned to Milano Centrale. The ice cream sellers and the food vendors had all gone. There were now 2 pavilions selling all kinds of snack food and of course gelato motta. Otherwise, Milano Centrale had not changed much. One saw many people from North Africa in Arab dress. An old disabled beggar man on a makeshift wheelchair was scavenging in the dustbins. Young backpackers hurried in and out of the great entrance hall of the station. Immigrants from Bangladesh selling trifling souvenirs outside on the terrace, paced up and down, glued to their mobile phones. Milan as a city, however, has changed for the better. The pollution of the 1950s is almost gone, and the city center is now a sumptuous architectonic daydream. The smart cafe restaurant, Savini, selling expensive meals, was almost empty this evening. The place on the opposite side, Ristorante Gatto Rosso, was packed, and the risotto Rafferano was decidedly popular, as it was delectable. Then the great cathedral piazza, even towards the midnight, was crowded. At 1 in the morning, peals of thunder and lightning announced the arrival of a tempest. I was within 100 meters from my hotel when the downpour started. Within minutes, I was soaking wet. The filming gear, fortunately, was well protected from the violent rain.
A handful of honey, yielding architecture, or what they saw. Assume a handful of honey. The sensual thought invites disparate emotions, responses of indulgence and revulsion. This viscous substance is seemingly unordered, yet in the act of surrendering its endowment, it is pulled to order. The energy invested in it is released, and gravity redetermines its form and position. Honey is sticky to the touch, and not just sweet upon the tongue. Might it not harbour possibilities encoded in its formula, its future state, as well as its past? May its present viscosity pave a way to new or other and unverifiable qualitative understandings. The ancient term nostalgia, spanning from future to past, is a very special form of melancholia. If ascribed to the present, it is enabled by paradox. Still a central theme today, nostalgia is the pain, the desire for projected and fantasized rapture that cannot exist and perhaps never existed. The pain and hope inherent in the ability to conceive an always elusive abstraction of consummation. And then there is viscosity, like that of the honey, that enables, if not the return, then at least the illusion of a return to sensuality, feeling and understanding, a return to birth and death, recurring leitmotifs in linear existence. Although the production of sensations is almost effortless, one can, for example, prick with a needle, and the description of the qualities that any sensation possesses might entail a degree of resemblance that makes a correlation possible. Still, the sensation of being pricked by a needle, then and there, or anywhere, it is not. Can communication then be at all possible? Or is it desirable?
Un po' di stracci, li passeracci, so usignoli, io c'è soltanto Roma, io t'ho scoperto stamattina.
Morning.
Addio Lugano bella, oh dolce terra mia, scacciati senza colpa gli anarchici bambini e partono cantando con la speranza in cuore. Partono cantando con la speranza in cuore. Ed è per voi sfruttati, per voi lavoro.
I have known Polish people. I've known Poland and Polish people for a long time. And when I was 60 years old. Street filming in August and September of 2023 with vintage equipment had a certain repetitive visual nuances. Tourists from the 4 points of the compass marched up and down like soldier ants in popular must-see places, as if making up for the locust years eaten by Covid-19. Yes, one heard both Ukraine and Russian in the streets.
Now on holiday. Last week.
San Remo on the Italian Riviera, September 2023. The dining room overlooking the seafront and the pine garden was set for colazione. Is a study in elegance and expression describing an emotion with a visual connotation. This effect is achieved through a combination of colors, muted gray on white, and the proportions of the three-dimensional form. Psychodynamic neurology tells us that if the quality of that daydream, the colazione room in San Remo, was what the clients of the luxurious hotel demanded, it was achieved through the anatomy of our visual system linked to the processor that is the mammalian brain. Messengers such as the neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine enter the central nervous system and trigger emotions that the amygdala in the brain utilizes to initiate an appropriate action. It is one of the mysteries of the universe that emotions can neither be seen nor touched. They are only felt. What is the feeling? The neurologist asks in vain. In 1959, Gordon Cooke, the Ciné lens designer of Taylor Hobson, designed a brilliant series of Ciné lenses for the Arriflex 16mm film cameras. Documentary filmmakers and independent film directors were increasingly turning to 16mm film cameras on locations because of their much easier handling. The Arriflex 16 ST200 film spools that could be loaded in daylight. But it took almost 20 years for box office filmmakers to start using 16mm film cameras on locations. Gordon Cooke's Kinetal 50mm Ciné lens mounted on Leica SL video camera with two precision lens adapters works well on the much larger APS-C sensor of the Leica. The lens, of course, produces much softer images than the modern cinema lenses. It is capable of subtle separations of foreground from the background. San Remo is a smaller Monte Carlo. It is a casino, a marina, and a fishing port, a long seafront promenade, gardens, markets, and luxury accommodation. However, the ambience is typically Italian rather than the resonance of Colbert's France. The fishing port of San Remo is a marvel. State-of-the-art motorized yachts parked alongside big and small fishing trawlers with drag nets, reels, and colored buoys marking the nets in the sea. This morning, a lone angler with a long fishing rod was casting his line inside the marina itself. By night, the gastronomic restaurant Pinese on the seafront served up a whole galaxy of fish and seafood dishes.
J'ai des attaques de regard. C'est ce que tu veux. Et ce que je vois, ça peut être aussi hier. Déjà, les quelques fois que j'ai passé, j'ai fait comme des c'est ça.
J'ai la balle, j'ai des chaussures, parce que tu sais, si je vais avec des gens.
It is the end of August. The mid-afternoon heat in Villefranche-sur-Mer is still intense. As nightfall descended, it cooled down rapidly, and the air turned full of scented pine resin and the mimosa. The seagull was still going on with their staccato castanets. My hotel in Villefranche is on the upper part of the cliff on which the town is built. I took a taxi, and the driver pretended not to know the address of the restaurant I gave him. That street, a well-known one, did not exist, he said. I asked him to drop me off anywhere on the seafront. The port area and the marina is busy tonight. To walk along the promenade was like taking a walk on the Wild West. Young people ran around singing and chanting. Older couples stopped before the displayed menu of every restaurant, and after scrutinizing the menu moved on with a discontent expression. I noticed a pattern. Those who wanted to eat and had already made up their mind walked straight in without looking at the menu outside. They had already done their research. Others would walk the whole length of the seafront and look in at every restaurant before deciding where to eat. They were mostly non-French. I too was looking for a restaurant and found an excellent place. It turned out that the restaurant has been serving fine seafood for 4 generations. Fish was brought out on a platter from the refrigerated display cabin for the diner to choose. When I explained to the manager patron, a family member, my project on vintage street filming during Covid and war, he let me film the paella preparation in the glass-fronted area of the open kitchen. As the meal ended and I took my leave, the metaphorical film projector began to run backwards, salvaging film clips long submerged in the ocean depths. Here is a voice telling one of these stories.
His name, he had told me, was Leo Pellegrini. However, I was never sure what his real name was. Each time the subject came up, it seemed to change. I had met him first at Zoccola of Oaxaca, during a late lunch. A steady stream of shoeshine boys kept interrupting my snack meal of a Mexican sandwich, served with chips and hot sauce. The stranger was sitting alone at a table in Café du Jardin, a short distance away, and staring in front of him at the crowded plaza with the concentration of a man who saw only the visions of his inner eye. One could tell that these were not tranquil. His clothes were neat and clean, but cheap, like those you might pick up at the street stalls for a few pesos. They were all used. His shoes looked oddly expensive, strong brown walking footwear. However, it was his face and not his clothes that caught my attention. A deep, glistening scar ran down the full length of the face on the left. In spite of the disfigurement, he had the looks of a film star, one who had left his youth behind. The ravaged features and the expression changed without warning from a complete blank to one of rage and despair. Within seconds, it became the face of a dangerous hunting animal imprisoned in a cage. He had seen his marked prey outside the bars of the cage, just beyond his reach, mocking and taunting the helpless prisoner within. I tried to guess his background, and wondered in idle speculation how such a man, free and undetected of his real self, could be sitting on a white plastic chair of Café du Jardin in the Zoccola of Oaxaca, drinking tequila. Next day, and every day following, the stranger was there, as usual, and at the same time. It was evident that he came to the plaza every afternoon, just like me. When I got to know him well enough, I asked for his name.
People call me the vagabond of the Zocalo, because I spend a lot of my time here.
Do you work or have a profession?
No, I am a card player, or a card sharper, depending on the point of view and the wealth of the man who loses playing against me. I mostly win. I always play in the reputable casinos, although I have also played in private clubs with people I know. I never play against strangers in private venues.
Have you always been a card player?
By no means. I was a military man once, a regular officer. Events slowly moved me sideways, and I ended up as one of the commanders of a revolutionary peasant army. They called me Comandante Amaro. Of course, it's not my real name. When we were all cleared out by the superior forces of the government, I became a professional hitman. I'm using the term metaphorically, you understand. And then I turned to card playing and became a gambler.
Where are you staying in Oaxaca?
I have rented a suite of rooms at the Camino Real. I don't have a time schedule or a plan.
His reply took me by surprise. I was still under the impression, suggested by the cheap clothes and the idle time, that he was a real vagabond, a man down and out. I knew that they charged $300 American a night for a room at Camino Real. My room at the family hotel in the same street cost just $50 a day. Six months went by, and I heard nothing further from Comandante Amaro. Then I received an email telling me that Maya Octaviana had sent him a message that was full of forebodings. She said that she had important news for him that would change his life. However, it was too dangerous and would need to be conveyed face to face. She asked him to meet her in Rio de Janeiro. The Commandante wanted me to accompany him to the meeting, just in case something happened to him. I was outside his circle of contacts and he had come to trust me. I accepted his suggestion. In fact, I had little choice. The seafront hotel at Copacabana Beach was a glimmering white elevation in the afternoon sunshine. Comandante Amaro was staying with friends in a hideout, a safe house, on the steep hill called Santa Teresa, a quarter of Rio with cobbled streets and decaying mansions. Our evening assignment was at the restaurant at the far end of Copacabana. I arrived by taxi at the Marius and saw the Comandante getting out of an armoured black limousine. He entered the restaurant and I lingered on the pavement for a little while to give him time to meet our hostess and settle down. The roar of the surf breaking on the sand was like thunder. The chef du restaurant came to receive me.
Senor, may I help you?
I am a guest of Senora Maya Octaviana.
Oh yes, she is already here and expecting you, senor. Please come this way.
I followed him to the other side of the dining hall to a semi-private room. At a round table, an elegant woman was sitting with her back to the wall, facing the restaurant. Her high-fashion grey-blue dress set off perfectly a complexion that glowed like a piece of brocade, woven on the hand-looms of Florence. The eyes were sea green. Her fine, soft hair, shot with gold, was drawn over her head and tied at the back with a clasp. The Comandante was sitting on her left. I approached them. The Comandante stood up and began the introduction. He saw the expression on my face and stopped abruptly. The lady, whom people mocked as the Princess of Darkness, looked at her, and I looked at her. It seemed like a long time. I dismissed the waiters and sat down slowly. Her face had gone white. The chest heaved in short breaths. My own heart was beating painfully.
Marimba.
Oh God. Oh my God. Maestro, is it really you?
Yes, it is I. Marimba, you haven't changed. Older and wiser, you are still the golden orchid of the rainforest.
Maestro, where have you travelled all these years? To what unknown, faraway land? In which direction of the compass? Comandante Amaro has told me. He spoke of a famous healer from another world, driven by a restless urge to travel. He spoke of his spiritual powers. He did not know your real name. I never thought that I would see you again. In my wildest dream, I dare not hope these eyes, blinded by salt tears night after night, would set their sight upon a face I loved with such passion. I know. Maestro, I did not blame you. I knew you loved me. Maestro, why did you punish Marimba so cruelly? Why was your disappearance, your silence so implacable, so relentless? You taught me so many things, gave me so much of your wisdom. You called me your tabula esmeralda, on which Trismegistos composed his own thoughts and saw the reflection of his own face. Yet you condemned Marimba to the inferno for a time without end. Maestro, every midnight I wept, and from the depth of that pool of tears I resurrected my dream, the desiccated dream of Marimba. I worshipped you, Maestro, when you were my teacher, as did your other pupils. Maestro, you filled my world with ambrosia of love. You loved people, and they loved you in return. You filled our world with light. The memory of the evening when Marimba saw you last brought her a gift of time from a fragile moment of happiness, of futile, unfulfilled love. In a planet of ice, Marimba's sole dowry was that sapphire night, lit by fireflies glowing in the grenadine thickets. The recollection of your amour celestial gave her the grace to remain your own true pupil, your own innocent, unworthy servidora. Maestro, the garland of Madre de Selva is still there, unfaded and awaiting the miracle of your touch. The fragrance of the heavenly bloom brings back every midnight the resurrected vision of your smiling face. Residing in a santuario del milagro, Maestro, if your answer is still the same when Marimba came to see you, Maya Octaviana will accept her fate, and Marimba would have died for all time to come. It was an evening of pure ambrosia, and the diamond of Jupiter pierced the black velvet sky of a Neapolitan night that was dying forever. The band began their music, and we watched the show together.
The bright morning sun shining on A's village swept away the cobwebs on the memory trace of the night before at Villefranche-Wood-Port. A's is a typical conglomerated medieval village of the Mediterranean, found all the way from Italy, France to the Mediterranean coast of Spain. Today, local people have abandoned the village, which is given over to tourists. This morning, people have poured in and were climbing up the steep path leading to the cactus garden at the very top. A young lady visitor from Hungary, a photographer, approached me when she saw my Leica SL with the Cooke Kinetal Ciné lens rolling on the tripod. The reaction of people to the sight of the filming varied. The lady with the smartphone, having a quiet coffee on the terrace of the cafe, paid no attention, even if she was aware of the rolling camera. Others, such as the large group of Italian ladies enjoying celebratory drinks, showed moments of scrutiny before turning away. I have found that explaining to people my project of vintage street filming during Covid and war as a tectonic fracture in world geopolitics, as a piece of historical writing on films, invariably led to acceptance. When and where can we see your films? Was a question that always followed.
Around 1 hour walk, so
in the sun.
Yeah.
Leica.
Leica.
C'est très, très bon.
Ouais.
Ouais.
Vous êtes français?
Oui.
Ouais. Vous connaissez Leica?
Oui, Leica.
Ouais.
Qui ne le connaît pas?
Ouais. Vous travaillez ici?
Non, moi je travaille en tant que guide, mais je connais cet appareil. Ouais. Leica, c'est sacré sainte. Il ne faut pas toucher.
Ah, vous avez raison.
Vence is a service and working town, 24 kilometers from Nice by road set among pine-covered mountains. It is, however, on the heritage map of France because of Chapelle de Rosaire à Vence, the chef d'oeuvre of Henri Matisse, built between 1947 and 1951. The chance to street film in Vence, in particular an informal lunch with old friends, put the Cooke Kinetal Since lens and the Leica SL through a classic cinematographic pace. A film set in St. Paul in the evening with someone I had walked before was pure Marcel Proust, à la recherche du temps perdu.
No, ma si vede.
Le piace? Sì?
Chissà cosa verrà fuori questa volta, ogni volta lo succede, perché lui poi scrive poesie accanto, disegni, e questo così come facevo quando avevo 19 anni. Cose per i capelli.
Just stay like that. Don't move.
Tu te dis, mais tu vas rester bloqué là, puis après pour ressortir. I could go to Renault Soccer and get a smarty party.
You know, you should clean your tongue. Because
clásica y que tiene de introducción por la segunda parte con el cuarteto solo. Es un otro pezzo muy famoso de la música española para guitarra clásica, Las Asturias de Isaac Albert.